welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and I have to get something off my chest. There is something that I don't like about Chetney, and it's not like anything in his character or anything, about his class or anything like that, the way he acts. No, it's the fact that he was a secret character, if that makes sense. He didn't tell everyone else what his class was, or he kind of just lied about it and said he was a rogue for a little while. This mildly irks me. And for a couple reasons, I'm not a big fan of this idea of pretending to be one thing when you're actually something else. It's not something I'm particularly fond of for a handful of reasons. They're more personal than anything. I think it's just bad for the group. It causes distrust between players in real life, especially if you've been playing a handful of sessions, is the thinking this guy's a rogue when he's actually not. He's not actually proficient in lockpicking, and somebody else's dexterity was actually higher, so they could have been better at picking those locks, or something along those lines. Which I actually think might be the case for Chetney versus like Dorian and Orem. I'm pretty sure both of their dexterities is higher, and which means that during the scene where they were trying to like break into the factory to help Fern, it was probably a very good idea for Chetney not to pick the locks and have someone else try to pick it. But I digress, that's only one thing. One of the other things that I'm not a big fan of is this can create like issues in balancing, especially for a smaller table. I have a group of a smaller group. I'm the DM and there's 3 players. If one of those players says they're going to play a bard and they're casting spells throughout, and I'm a bard, I sing while I make my magic work, but I'm actually a wizard, you're going to tell them you're a bard. So they're going to think you're extremely charismatic. You do the negotiations for us. Meanwhile, there's a paladin in the group who's also charismatic, but is sitting there doing nothing because you told them you're a bard. They could be talking. Their charisma is probably higher than yours. But because you said you were a bard, you're talking. And now you're doing terribly. They're like, "Why? You must just be rolling poorly, whatever." No, it's your stats are wrong. You're lying. And this can cause problems with players in real life, especially in the smaller games, where team composition is important. If you have a group with no heals, it's very likely you're going to die, but you can make up for it with having a tank, and having people in the back from range doing damage. But if you don't have that, like, especially when you're running a smaller game where you're sneaking around doing stuff, you tell someone you're a rogue and you're not actually like double proficient in stealth and sleight of hand and pickpocketing or whatever, you're just gonna set your group up for failure. But what I think they did really well with Chetney specifically is they didn't hold this secret long. He was introduced at the end of episode 7 or 8, I forget which one exactly. And they did 0 combat encounters, had a handful of instances where his stealth could have been a problem, but because he was invisible, he has advantage. Which was a good cover, admittedly. That's a great cover. And it actually made me think he was a rogue. But the minute combat started and he didn't go for sneak attack, he didn't try to seek advantage somehow, he didn't try to use a ranged attack to get advantage with his friends beside an ally, seemed fishy to me. So right away I had questions popping up about why sneak attack wasn't coming up, and then he turned into a werewolf and his real character sheet popped up. This is fine for one reason. He didn't take 15 sessions to reveal that he was a blood hunter. Instead of it being 15 sessions of I'm a bard, but I'm actually a wizard, and you do multiple talking encounters, battle encounters, all this other stuff, and especially if you're pretending to be a wizard as a bard, you're not using healing word, which is something that could be extremely useful, especially if you didn't have another healer in your group. But what Travis and Matt did was basically set it up so that combat wouldn't start without Gurge also being there so that the whole backstory of him being a werewolf could be involved, which is good. I think what they've done with this secret character and getting it out of the way super early, as far as Chetney being involved, literally has had 0 combats until this one. So we didn't have to go a couple of combats saying, where's sneak attack? Where's uncanny dodge? Where's all these things? Where's cunning action, etc.? You know what I'm saying? I'm glad they got it out of the way as quickly as they did. Otherwise, I might be a little bit more peeved about it. Because again, not a fan of this secret character thing. The secret character thing sets you up for bad team composition, potential distrust between players in real life, and potential distrust between characters in roleplay, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It might be a good thing for a little while, but if that continues, that's a bad thing. And right now, we're seeing that Ashton distrusts Chetney, and he has to earn his trust. Granted, I feel like they all actually like him, just Ashton's being Ashton. But I think this is the best way you're going to do it. And maybe a few other best ways to do it. Maybe even less sessions to reveal it. But getting it out of the way early is the best way to do the secret character thing. The secret character thing shouldn't exist. I think if you're going to do a secret character thing, you should tell the players outside and, have their characters act surprised if you're going to do it at all. I don't think that, that's kind of lame thinking about it, but it just doesn't work. It always leads to someone feeling misled and having distrust, and it always leads to potential encounters that could have went vastly different ways. Granted, if you wanted to make it more difficult on yourself, you could do this. And it's totally reasonable that you'd want to if you've had a couple campaigns that have been way too easy because you've had a rogue. Because, you're able to skip encounters, you're able to stealth by everything, you're able to do this. Fine. If you wanted to tell everyone you were going to be a rogue and then not do that, mild dick move. But I can somewhat see where trying to avoid rogue comes in, especially because I've seen a lot of people not happy about the idea of him being a rogue. I've seen it very little, like only a handful of comments that I've caught on like the Twitch streams or whatever, saying like rogue cheats the game. So maybe you have a point if you're trying to avoid rogue, but I don't like this. I don't like secret characters. I think it's silly. I think it leads to people being, mistrust. It leads to distrust, and it's just not a good thing to have at your table. Like I said, though, they did this really well, Matt and Travis, and if you're gonna do it, talk to your DM about doing it this way, if at all, again, because this was a kind of a fast way to get out of it. They started it, no combats, had a couple of encounters where it might have been revealed that he's not so good at lockpicking or at stealth or whatever, and then reveal the big twist in the first combat. Probably the best way you're going to end up doing it. Yeah, sorry, I just had to rant about the secret character thing. I hate it, but this was done really well, in my opinion. So, yeah. I think this Thursday is their, sort of bye week, right? They do 3 in a month, and then they do their bye. So there isn't going to be a review, but there is going to be another video up on Friday. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you want to hear more opinions about D&D, Critical Role, etc., etc. Have a nice day.